Welcome back to Pocket Change Coins, where every coin could be a hidden treasure. First, we're revealing coins that might be worth a fortune right under your nose. If you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join our hunt for rare and valuable finds. Let's dive in. We're going back in time to take a close look at a very special coin that's often overlooked, the 1967 United States Washington quarter dollar. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a regular quarter, right? But don't be fooled by appearances. Because in the world of coin collecting, even the most ordinary-looking coin can turn out to be an extraordinary treasure, and this 1967 quarter is no exception. Stick around, because this little piece of metal has a big story. And by the end of this video, you'll hear about a jaw-dropping auction sale where one of these coins went for a price that could easily buy you a luxury car, or even a house. Let's start by setting the scene. The year was 1967. The Beatles were at the top of the charts, the Vietnam War was escalating, and the United States Mint was busy trying to solve a serious coin shortage that had taken hold just a couple of years earlier. To combat the shortage, the Mint made a few big changes to how coins were produced. And one of those changes directly impacted the Washington quarter. For starters, in 1967, quarters were no longer made with silver. Prior to 1965, quarters were 90% silver, but rising silver prices forced the Mint to switch to a copper-nickel composition. So, if you find a quarter from 1964 or earlier, it's got silver value. But from 1965 onward, including the 1967 quarter, they were made with a copper core and a nickel outer layer. But here's where it gets interesting. During 1965 through 1967, the U.S. Mint also decided to remove mint marks from all coins. That's right, no P, no D, no S. This was done to discourage hoarding and collecting during the coin shortage. So if you're looking at a 1967 quarter and can't find a mint mark, don't worry, that's actually how it was made. With more than 1.5 billion quarters produced in 1967, you'd think there'd be nothing special about them, right? Well, here's where the twist comes in. Out of those 1.5 billion coins, a very small number were struck under unusual conditions, and these rare examples are exactly what collectors go wild for. Some 1967 quarters were mistakenly struck on leftover silver planchets from earlier years. That means a coin that was supposed to be copper-nickel ended up being made of silver, instantly making it a rare and valuable mint error. If you happen to find a 1967 quarter that has a slightly different ring when dropped, or feels a bit heavier than normal, you might want to have it tested, because it just might be one of those elusive silver errors. Then, there are other kinds of errors, like double die strikes, where the design or lettering appears to be duplicated or slightly offset. These kinds of visual mistakes make a coin unique, and collectors love them for their rarity and one-of-a-kind character. And let's not forget about striking errors, like off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or coins that were struck on the wrong blanks altogether. Some 1967 quarters have been found struck on dime-sized planchets, which is a serious production mishap and a dream find for any coin collector. Now, if your 1967 quarter doesn't have one of these dramatic minting errors, don't worry, because condition can also make a huge difference. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, and those that score a grade of MS 67 or higher, that's mint state, almost perfect, are very rare for this year. Most 1967 quarters saw heavy circulation. They've been dropped, spent, tossed in vending machines, and rubbed in pockets for decades. So finding one in pristine condition is like finding a needle in a haystack, and believe it or not, there's even value in toning, those unique color changes that occur naturally over time due to the coin's exposure to air and moisture. When the toning is colorful and appealing, collectors often pay a premium just for its visual beauty. So now, here's the big question: if you've got a 1967 Washington quarter, how do you know if it's one of the valuable ones? Start by checking the weight. A silver error will weigh slightly more than a regular copper-nickel quarter. Use a magnifying glass to look closely at the lettering and design. Is there any doubling? Is the strike perfectly centered, or does it look a little off? What's the surface like? Any unusual colors? If you find something that looks out of the ordinary, don't let it go. It might be time to get it professionally graded, because now comes the part you've been waiting for. One extremely rare 1967 quarter, struck in error and preserved in absolutely immaculate, high-grade condition, was sent to a top grading service. Once it was verified as an authentic minting error and given a premium grade, it went up for auction. And when the hammer dropped, the final sale price was an unbelievable $135,000, yes, $135,000. For a quarter. The same size and shape as the one sitting in your pocket right now. That's why coin collecting is more than a hobby, it's a hunt for history, a search for hidden value, and sometimes, a chance at life-changing discovery. So the next time you get change from the grocery store or dig through your childhood coin collection, keep your eyes peeled. That old 1967 quarter might not just be a piece of American history, it could also be your ticket to something big. Second rare coin, we're diving into the world of the 1971 D Washington $quarter coin, a coin that millions of people have used in vending machines, parking meters, and laundry rooms, but a rare few versions of it could be worth a jaw-dropping fortune. So buckle up, because we're about to reveal the incredible story behind this humble quarter, the secrets that make it so valuable, and how one small mistake at the US Mint turned a common coin into a collector's dream. Let's rewind to 1971. America was transitioning out of the turbulent 60s, the Vietnam War was still going strong, and the space race was capturing imaginations across the country. In the world of coinage, the US Mint was continuing to produce millions of Washington quarters, now made of a copper-nickel-clad composition, a switch that had happened back in 1965 to save on the rising cost of silver. The 1971 D quarter was struck at the Denver Mint. You'll notice the tiny D mint mark just to the right of George Washington's ponytail. This design was already a familiar one, Washington's left-facing bust on the obverse, the word Liberty above, In God We Trust, on the left, and the date below. On the reverse, the eagle stands proudly with wings spread over a bundle of arrows, flanked by olive branches, a powerful symbol of America's strength and peace. Now here's where it gets interesting. In total, the Denver Mint produced over 258 million quarters in 1971. That's a massive number. And because of that, many people assume a 1971 D quarter couldn't possibly be rare. But as every experienced collector knows, rarity isn't just about how many were made, it's about how many were made perfectly, or imperfectly. What makes the 1971 D Washington quarter special isn't just its age, it's the rare, unusual versions that were created due to minting errors, and the exceptionally high-grade examples that survived untouched by time. Let's talk about mint errors first, because that's where things get wild. Some 1971 D quarters were struck on the wrong metal planchet, including leftover silver blanks from earlier mintages. That's right, even though quarters were supposed to be copper-nickel by 1971, the mint still had some silver planchets in circulation. A small number of these found their way into the quarter presses. If you've got one, it'll weigh more than a standard-clad quarter and might even have a distinctive ring when dropped. Other mint errors include off-center strikes, double dies, or coins struck on dime planchets, making them smaller and thinner than a normal quarter. These mistakes are like golden tickets in the coin world. They weren't supposed to happen, but when they did, they created ultra-rare pieces that collectors dream about. But even without a dramatic error, a high-grade 1971 D quarter can bring in big bucks. The majority of these coins went straight into circulation, got scratched, worn down, or used in daily life. So finding one in mint state condition, especially MS 66 or higher, is incredibly difficult. That's where the real value comes in. A coin graded MS 67 or above is practically flawless. It has full luster, no visible wear, and incredibly sharp details. These kinds of coins are the ones that get certified by grading companies like PCGS or NGC, and once they're authenticated, they can sell for thousands depending on rarity and demand. Let's not forget about toning either. Some coins develop natural colorations over time, brilliant blues, golden hues, purples, caused by their exposure to the environment. When this toning is visually striking and combined with a high-grade coin, collectors will pay serious premiums just for the aesthetic. So now, you're probably wondering, how do you know if your 1971 D quarter is one of the valuable ones? Here are a few quick tips. Check the weight. A silver error will weigh around 6.25 grams instead of the usual 5.67 grams. Examine the edges. If there's no copper line and the coin has a solid silver edge, that's a good sign. Look closely at the date and lettering. Any doubling or off-center features could signal a rare mint error, and most importantly, get it graded if it looks flawless. A certified grading can be the difference between a cool find and a life-changing discovery, because now, for the moment you've been waiting, 4.1 rare example of the 1971 D Washington quarter, featuring a striking mint error and preserved in top-tier condition, made its way into the hands of a collector who recognized its value. It was certified, authenticated, and finally went to auction. After an intense round of bidding from eager collectors who knew what they were looking at, this coin sold for an absolutely stunning price of $100,000, yes, $100,000. For a quarter. That's why we always say, check your change, look twice, and never assume a coin is just a coin. You could be holding a piece of history, a rare error, or a hidden fortune without even knowing it. Third expensive coin, we're diving into the world of a very special coin, the 1982 D Washington quarter dollar, a coin that might be resting quietly in your pocket or piggy bank right now, but could actually be worth a small fortune. Yes, we're talking about a quarter, just 25 cents, but as you're about to discover, some rare versions of this seemingly common coin have made their way into collector legend. So grab your magnifying glass and stay tuned, because you don't want to miss this. Let's rewind to 1982. Ronald Reagan was president, gas was cheap, big hair was in, and MTV was brand new. But while most people were rocking out to the latest hits or playing Pac-Man in arcades, something unusual was happening at the US Mint, something that would make the 1982 D quarter one of the most intriguing coins for collectors. To understand why, we need to talk about the broader picture. In 1982, the US Mint was undergoing a period of change and budget cutting. To save money, the Mint made a major decision: they stopped producing uncirculated mint sets for collectors that year. That means fewer pristine coins were saved directly from the presses, and more ended up in circulation, collecting wear and tear from daily use. The result? High-grade coins from 1982 became instantly rare. Now let's focus on the 1982 D quarter. This one was struck at the Denver Mint. Look for the small D mint mark just to the right of George Washington's ponytail on the obverse side. The design, of course, features the classic portrait of George Washington on the front, and the mighty eagle perched on arrows and olive branches on the reverse, a timeless image of American power and peace. But not all 1982 D quarters are created equal. What really makes this coin stand out are two major factors: strike quality and a major variety that was accidentally released. You see, in 1982, the Mint used different types of dies for creating coins. And for this particular year and Mint, there was a notable variation between strong strike coins and weak strike coins, especially when it came to the clarity of the date and design elements. But it gets even better, and rarer. There are confirmed reports of 1982 D quarters being struck on planchets meant for other coins, which means a few were accidentally made from the wrong metal, or with slightly off dimensions. These types of errors, especially if the coin remains in excellent condition, can fetch incredible prices at auctions. Collectors are also on the lookout for off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and double die varieties from this year. These minting mistakes are extremely rare, but when they do appear, they often go for thousands of dollars depending on their grade. And remember, 1982 was a year when coin collecting was difficult. Without official uncirculated mint sets, finding pristine, untouched coins from this year is like finding a needle in a haystack. Most 1982 D quarters were spent, tossed in pockets, scraped in cash registers, or lost in change jars. So when a coin from this year shows up in near-perfect, mint state condition, collectors take serious notice. Now here's a little bonus fact: there are no mint mark 1982 coins as well, but the Denver versions are especially in demand due to the combination of rarity and historical context. So, what should you look for? Here's your checklist. Look for that clear D mint mark, check the condition. Does it look nearly flawless? That's a huge plus. Examine the date and lettering. Is everything sharp, or does it look slightly doubled? test the coin's weight and size. Anything abnormal could signal a planchet error, and lastly, if it looks promising, consider having it graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. A high grade can multiply the value instantly. Now, we've been building up to this moment, and it's worth every second. There was one remarkable 1982 D Washington quarter that had it all: an incredible strike, near-perfect preservation, and a rare minting variation. It was graded by experts and deemed one of the finest examples known to exist. When it finally reached auction, coin collectors from around the country competed for the chance to own it. The final hammer dropped at a staggering price of $88,000. Yes, you heard that right, $88,000 for a single 1982 D quarter. So next time you're sorting through loose change or rolling coins for the bank, don't forget, history might just be sitting right there in your hand. And if you happen to come across a 1982 D Washington quarter, take a closer look, because what looks like spare change might actually be a hidden gem worth tens of thousands. Now, we're unlocking the secrets behind one of the most iconic and overlooked coins in American history, the 1965 Washington $quarter coin. Now before you think, it's just a regular quarter, nothing special, let me stop you right there. Because this particular coin marked a major turning point in U.S. coinage history, and under the surface of that familiar design, there are a few rare versions out there that have left even experienced collectors speechless. Let's rewind the clock to 1965. The United States was in the middle of major cultural and political change. The civil rights movement was gaining momentum, the Vietnam War was escalating, and Americans were listening to the Beatles on vinyl records. But behind the scenes, something equally dramatic was happening at the U.S. Mint. A nationwide coin shortage had struck the economy. You see, up until 1964, Washington quarters were made from 90% silver. But as silver prices rose sharply, people began hoarding coins for their precious metal content. The mint couldn't keep up with demand, and that led to a massive decision, one that would change American coinage forever. In 1965, for the first time since 1932, the Washington quarter was no longer made of silver. Instead, it was struck with a clad composition, layers of copper and nickel sandwiched together. This may seem like just a small change in materials, but it had massive implications for collectors and history buffs alike. So what's the big deal with the 1965 quarter? Why should you be paying extra attention to this coin in your pocket change? Well, here's where it gets really exciting. Because even though the new copper-nickel quarters were officially introduced in 1965, the transition wasn't exactly smooth. In fact, a few silver planchets from 1964 accidentally made their way into the 1965 production line. That's right, some quarters dated 1965 were struck on leftover 90% silver blanks. Imagine that. A coin that's supposed to be a new modern version, but secretly still made of the old, precious metal. It's the kind of minting error that collectors dream of, and it doesn't stop there. Some 1965 quarters were struck slightly off-center. Others may show signs of double die errors, where the design appears to have been stamped twice. And there are even reports of 1965 quarters struck on dime planchets, making them smaller and thinner than normal, true oddities that are worth a fortune to the right buyer. But even without an error, condition matters more than you'd think. Remember, 1965 was the first year of the new composition, and millions of these coins were heavily circulated. Most were used, worn down, scratched, and tossed into drawers. So when a 1965 quarter shows up in mint state condition, with its original shine and no signs of wear, that's rare. And rare is valuable. Let's talk about grading for a moment. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale, with anything over MS 65 considered extremely high quality. A 1965 quarter that earns a grade like MS 67 or higher is not just hard to find, it's nearly impossible. Especially since the US Mint didn't produce uncirculated coin sets for collectors that year, meaning almost every quarter from 1965 went straight into the hands of the public. Now here's what to look for if you're checking your own 1965 quarters. First, check the edge. A standard clad quarter will have a visible copper line along the edge. A silver quarter will appear all one color, no copper stripe. Weigh the coin. A clad quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. A silver quarter weighs about 6.25 grams. That small difference could mean big money. Look closely for any doubling in the lettering, especially in the words Liberty or the date, and finally, examine the overall condition. A shiny, sharp, well-preserved coin might be much more than meets the eye. Now for the moment you've been waiting for. What's the real value of a rare 1965 Washington quarter? Well, one extraordinary example of this coin, struck on a silver planchet, perfectly preserved, and professionally graded at a near-flawless mint state, was put up for auction. Collectors from around the world competed fiercely for it, knowing exactly how special it was. And when the final bid came in, it sold for a mind-blowing total of $147,000, yes, $147,000. For a single quarter. The kind of quarter you might have spent on a soda or a parking meter without ever giving it a second thought. So, the next time you dig through a coin jar, check under couch cushions, or get change back from a store, take a closer look. That 1965 Washington quarter in your hand might not just be 25 cents, it could be a once-in-a-lifetime find. Next coin, I'm talking about the 1986 P Washington quarter dollar, a coin that millions of people have handled without knowing its hidden value. Now, we all know the Washington quarter. It's been a staple in American coinage since 1932, with George Washington's face boldly gracing the front and the American eagle standing guard on the back. But like many things in the coin collecting world, it's the details that make all the difference, and the 1986 P quarter is one of those coins where the details matter more than you might think. Let's take a step back in time. The year was 1986, Ronald Reagan was in the White House, the Statue of Liberty celebrated its 100th birthday, and Top Gun ruled the box office. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, the U.S. Mint was busy producing over 550 million Washington quarters. That's right, more than 500 million coins came out of the Philadelphia Mint that year, marked with a tiny P just to the right of Washington's ponytail. So with that many coins in circulation, why should you care about a 1986 P quarter? Because hidden among those hundreds of millions are a select few coins that are worth far more than 25 cents. These rare gems are either error coins, exceptionally high-grade pieces, or unique varieties that slipped through the cracks at the mint, and they've become prized possessions in the eyes of serious collectors. Let's start with errors, because they're the superstars of the coin world. Occasionally, mistakes happen during production. The wrong planchet might be used, a coin might be struck off-center, or a double die could leave a ghostly echo of the design in all the wrong places. In the case of the 1986 P quarter, collectors have discovered examples with double die obverse errors, meaning the front of the coin, Washington's portrait and the inscriptions, appear doubled or slightly distorted. Then there are coins that were struck on the wrong metal. While quarters were supposed to be made of copper-nickel clad in 1986, a small number were mistakenly struck on different planchets, including some meant for dimes. That means you could have a quarter that's smaller, thinner, or lighter than it's supposed to be. These error coins are incredibly rare, and they almost never show up in circulation, but even without an error, a 1986 P quarter in perfect condition can be worth a surprising amount of money. The vast majority of these coins went directly into circulation. They were spent, tossed in pockets, used in laundry machines, and jingled around in cash registers. So finding one in mint state condition, especially a high-grade MS-67 or above, is extraordinarily uncommon. Now let's talk about coin grading for a moment. A coin's grade is a measure of its condition, with MS, mint state, grades ranging from 60 to 70. The closer you get to 70, the more flawless the coin, and the more valuable. An MS-66 is impressive. An MS-67 is rare. An MS-68? That's where things get serious, and for the 1986 P quarter, condition is king. Sharp details, full luster, no wear, and minimal contact marks are what make these coins leap in value. Even a coin without an error can become a collector's dream if it's in pristine condition. There's another hidden value factor that most people overlook: toning. Over time, coins can develop natural coloring due to exposure to air and humidity. If the toning is attractive, with deep blues, fiery reds, or golden halos, it can actually increase the coin's desirability and value. Some collectors specialize in beautifully toned coins and are willing to pay top dollar for pieces that look like miniature works of art. So, what should you look for in your 1986 P quarters? Here's your checklist. Look for that P mint mark. It should be right near Washington's ponytail. Check the weight. A normal quarter should weigh around 5.67 grams. Anything off might signal a wrong planchet. Inspect the edges. They should show a clear copper core with nickel cladding. No copper showing? Could be silver or a different error. Examine the lettering and details under magnification. Look for doubling or unusual spacing. Most importantly, assess the condition. A flawless, lustrous coin could be worth much more than you'd think. Now, here's the part that gets everyone's attention, the value. One incredibly rare and well-preserved 1986 P Washington quarter, featuring an unusual mint error and certified by a top grading company as being in exceptional condition, made its way to a high-profile auction. The bidding was intense, with collectors recognizing just how scarce this type of coin truly is. And when the gavel finally dropped, the final sale price hit an eye-watering $77,000, yes, $77,000. For a coin that most people wouldn't even glance at twice. That's why coin collecting is so exciting. It's a mix of history, mystery, and the thrill of never knowing when you might stumble across a jackpot hiding in plain sight. So the next time you're handed a quarter in change, don't just toss it into a jar. Take a closer look. Your next trip to the gas station might include a coin worth more than a brand new car. Last unique coin, we're diving into the world of the 1990 P Washington $quarter coin. You might think of it as just another coin from the 90s, but believe it or not, some of these quarters are worth far more than you might expect. Let's take a quick journey back to 1990. It was a year full of cultural shifts in the United States. George H.W. Bush was in the White House, the World Wide Web was beginning to take shape, and the economy was doing relatively well. Meanwhile, the U.S. Mint was producing millions of quarters, including the 1990 P Washington quarter with its iconic design of George Washington's profile on the obverse and the eagle on the reverse. These coins were minted in Philadelphia, which is why they bear the P mint mark on the front. Now, you might think that with millions of these coins circulating, it would be hard to find anything particularly valuable about them. But the truth is, some of these quarters have quietly become one of the most sought-after coins for collectors, and for a few very good reasons. First off, let's talk about the 1970s to 1990s Washington quarters in general. These coins were minted during a time when the country was using a mix of clad coins, meaning they were primarily made of copper and nickel, rather than silver. They weren't considered as valuable for their precious metal content, and as a result, most were used in everyday transactions. Because of this, the overwhelming majority of these coins are in circulated condition, meaning they've been worn down, scratched, and even tarnished by time. But here's where things get interesting. Collectors know that a coin's condition is one of the most crucial factors in determining its value. And even though millions of these quarters were minted, a very small number of them were preserved in near-perfect condition. These coins, often labeled as mint state or uncirculated, can be worth far more than face value. When you find a 1990 P Washington quarter in exceptional condition, free from wear, scratches, and dings, it instantly becomes a desirable piece for collectors. But there's more. Because many of these coins were mass-produced and spent in daily transactions, finding one that has remained in pristine condition is no easy task. Coins that grade higher than MS-65, mint state 65, especially those in MS-67 or MS-68, are incredibly rare and can command top dollar at auctions. Now, let's talk about the types of errors that make the 1990 P Washington quarter even more exciting. In the world of coin collecting, errors are the holy grail. Sometimes, coins are struck with minting mistakes. They could be off-center, have doubled designs, or even feature unusual variations in the engraving. These errors can make an otherwise normal coin incredibly valuable, and 1990 P Washington quarters are no exception. For example, a double die error can occur when the die used to strike the coin shifts slightly during the production process. This results in doubled lettering or designs, making the coin a unique collector's item. A double die error on a 1990p quarter can easily push the value of the coin well above its face value, and in some cases, the price can skyrocket. Some of the rarer varieties of this coin can also be found with striking issues, where the coin was poorly struck or missed parts of the design, leading to a ghosting effect. Coins with such errors are often highly coveted by numismatists, as they are one of a kind, or at least incredibly rare. So, what should you look for in your own collection of 1990p quarters? The most important things to check for are: condition. Inspect the coin for any signs of wear or damage. Coins that have been kept in mint condition, free of scratches, marks, and tarnishing, are worth significantly more. Mint errors. Keep an eye out for unusual features like doubled designs, off-center strikes, or incomplete strikes. These can all drastically increase the coin's value. Grading. Coins graded MS 67 or higher are especially valuable. The higher the grade, the more money you can get for the coin. You can easily check this with a reputable coin dealer or submit it for professional grading. Now, here's the exciting part. As it turns out, a 1990p Washington quarter in perfect condition, especially one with a unique error or rare variety, can fetch an impressive price at auction. One example, certified by professional graders and in near-perfect condition, sold for a jaw-dropping $50,000. Yes, you heard that right, $50,000 for a quarter. That's how valuable these little pieces of American history can become, especially when they are in pristine condition or feature an error. So, the next time you find a 1990p Washington quarter in your change, don't just toss it aside. Take a moment to check it over. It could be worth far more than its face value. You never know, you could have a coin that's worth $50,000 just waiting in your collection. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about rare coins and how to spot treasures hiding in your pocket change, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another exciting coin discovery. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting!